Hi guys, thanks for coming back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing another book review, and today we're doing an epic book within driver training and driving, which is Roadcraft. I've actually got a very early version of Roadcraft from the 70s, which is actually a really fantastic book with some great images inside there. I'll just show you a few of them, which I think are very interesting because they still apply today, a lot of these, you know, in terms of vision and things like that. So quite useful all in all. This book's quite interesting because it looks at things from a slightly different perspective. It's quite old school, but it's very concise, which I love. The prevention of road accidents has been a matter for public concern ever since vehicles appeared. Accidents can occur any time and any place and cannot be attributed to any particular road feature or vehicle defect, which is a fantastic statement, and it continues in that ilk throughout the whole book, which is fantastic, and I use this as a go-to for quite a few things because it's quite a useful, succinct methodology. It looks at it, say, slightly different perspective than the current Roadcraft. It talks about course, mirror signal, speed, gear, mirror signal, horn, acceleration. So slightly different application of the system, but it explains it in quite good detail inside that book. So recommended, but more of an ingest more than anything else. But there is actually some very, very useful bits of information in there, vision and things like that. Quite helpful. There's another one there, so very good. Obviously there will be other versions of Roadcraft, but I have the yellow one, which is my original Roadcraft actually. I find this book actually much more accessible than the new one. There are some things missing, but as you can see how dog-eared it is, it was obviously my original Roadcraft that I used. Roadcraft's there for all, it's go-to for all advanced and emergency service training, and if you're a driving instructor, if you enjoy driving, if you're any of those things, I'd highly recommend getting a copy of this book and having a look through, because it really is superb. Now we move on to the IPSCA routine inside this book, which is the current version, and yeah, it's in terms of the current system, I should say, but very, very good book indeed. There are a few omissions inside here, which we'll come back to as we get to the new one. I've also got a Fleetcraft, which I must admit I don't use a great deal. For some reason, so some things inside here, which are things like fatigue and how we manage fatigue a little bit more, and times of the day where we become a little bit more distracting and such like, and a few more facts and figures inside here. Very, very similar to the original Roadcraft, and again we've got inside the back, which I use quite often, is a powder check. Sorry, a power check, which I use quite frequently. But there's very few additions inside there from the yellow book I've just shown you. Obviously this is the most up-to-date book, and again you can see it's dog-eared. I genuinely love Roadcraft, and every time I use this as a go-to, it really is fantastic. I think personally I feel there's a few omissions inside here, which I'll talk about when I write my book, but in fairness, it's a superb way of explaining how an advanced driver might think. Again, great go-to, highly recommended this book. One of the things that's really good about this version is it includes things about temperament and personality, and the GDE matrix, goals for driver education, and the matrix is inside there as well, which is a very useful thing to have in there. And it's also got applications and areas being written by Lisa Dawn from a psychology perspective. What I find quite sad though, that doesn't continue throughout the whole book. Having said that though, this book for the first time, I believe properly, talks about the parking and manoeuvring as part of the book. Talks about benefits of doing things in certain ways, which is fabulous, and it's got a lot of the things from the old books in there. In some ways the images are much better in this book. and in some ways they're far worse because they're much smaller or maybe a little bit too almost over detailed. Actually, they're trying to be cool rather than actually be useful from a training perspective. But all in all, superb book. One of the things that's really well described in all the Roadcrafts is positioning, and again I think that can be misunderstood by a lot of drivers, so that's a very useful thing to look at in the book. The other thing that's in this book that isn't in the old ones, ironically, is eco driving, which I find quite amusing because anybody that's done their advanced test, or anybody that's studying to do that, or a part of emergency services, will find that isn't necessarily the focus of advanced training, although it probably should be. But yeah, it does talk a little bit about an eco approach and to driving in some of these books. So yeah, this is highly recommended, a superb go-to. Inevitably, as I said, there are some things missing from the book, but some absolutely superb areas from front to back, including goals for education, including the power check, I am safe check, lots of different checks inside here, and lots of things to discuss and think about. Certainly gave me something to think about when I read it originally. So really good. I'd highly recommend it for all instructors, anybody that wants to become a driving instructor or also is really interested in driving. Thank you very much for listening today. Please subscribe to my channel and I'll see you again soon. Thank you.